Hello and welcome to the final episode of the DigiTeacher Digest for this year. I'd like to look at the whole question of, has digital technology transformed education? There was a lot of hype in Apple Classrooms of Tomorrow and the different models, SAMR, the models adopted by the United Nations, for example. This persistent idea that somehow digital technologies would transform education and fix all its problems. Now, I don't want to get into the whole question of, is education broken, does it need fixing, and so on. I'd just like to focus on the rather more narrow question of, has digital technology transformed education? Larry Cuban has a clear answer, and that is in his rather cheeky article and in other books that he's written and blog posts over the years, that technologies come in waves, they are very faddish, they promise to transform education and end up not doing so. And he lists computers amongst these technologies. His article, Computers Meet Classrooms, Classrooms Win, kind of sums all of that up. But I saw a podcast by Selwyn the other day, from a couple of years ago, in which he suggests that digital technologies have not revolutionized education per se, but perhaps there has been a revolution of scale. So that over the years, nothing really has happened, nothing has seemed to happen, and suddenly you wake up one morning and computers are everywhere, they're being used everywhere, and the great onlining, I think, has shown us this ubiquity of the technology perhaps enabled education to continue during the pandemic when it might not otherwise have been able to do. That you wake up one day and there's been this slow revolution and things have changed. And he talked about data, and I'm not one of those who's vastly in favor of technology as a sort of data-driven thing, that if you can collect enough data on students it can transform educational practice. But he may have a point there. So how has it transformed education? Well, I've got to look, obviously the only thing I have available to me is my own private experience, my own personal experience. And if I think about some of the technologies and the affordances that they have and what it has been able to do to educational practice, for example, Google Docs allows for collaborative writing in a way which no previous technology has been able to do. You can have a single document being worked on simultaneously by multiple students, and you just can't do that with pen or paper. You can't even do it with an ordinary word processor. So I think in terms of collaborative writing, Google Docs has been transformative and meets the kind of criteria of the SAMR model. Other things that have been transformative, I think, are the use of video for feedback. So VoiceThread or Flipgrid, something like that, enables students to very quickly give some kind of reflective feedback which hangs around. So because it's recorded, because it's uploaded, and can be viewed and it can be used for reflective practice, I think that is transformative. So I think there are individual technologies which have transformed educational practice in rather limited ways for particular purposes. And I'm sure you can find many, many other examples. So an interactive whiteboard, for example, is not just simply like a blackboard. Often it's used that way. Teachers will write on the interactive whiteboard, and that's fine. You need to do that. You can draw on the interactive whiteboard, and that's absolutely fantastic. But the thing about an interactive whiteboard is you can kind of instantly transform it. You just open the browser, go onto YouTube, and you can have a video of life in the trenches in World War I and present information to students in such a way that they can understand what conditions were like in the trenches in ways which are quite impossible with a blackboard. So even something as simple as an interactive whiteboard can become transformative. I've seen lots of presentations where a sales rep will show the interactive whiteboard and will bring on all kinds of fancy things you can do with maths formulae and things. But I don't know, handwriting does that quite well. And the true transformative power of an interactive whiteboard is its ability to connect to the internet, which allows you to open up anything available on the internet to a class instantaneously, firewall permitting, and you always need a plan B, because you know what happens in classrooms. You plan to show a video and then it's suddenly unavailable and all of that. So I think in limited ways, digital technologies have transformed education. There are bits of our practice that have transformed. If I think about school administration, for example, and I was talking to someone the other day about how in my first year of teaching, we couldn't go to the Christmas lunch because we had to balance our registers, and you had to pore over these documents which had been written up in pen, and you had to use a calculator to add up all the columns, make sure the number of boys and girls matched, and all of that kind of stuff. And now we have learning management systems where attendance is recorded and is available on the press of a button in the form of a report, and everyone can go to the Christmas lunch. So it's transformed administrative practice as well in so many ways. So I was thinking, overall, could we say that computers have transformed education? And I think the key to it really lies with the learning management system. Your learning management system is a place where you can bring all of this together. And I watched a little video the other day about how Microsoft Teams had all these new features available in assignment, that you could now add apps and interactive whiteboards and things like Flipgrid directly into your assignments on Teams. And I get that sense that Neil Selwyn was talking about, of a slow accumulation of affordances over time of digital technologies, that we're going to wake up one day and turn around and say, actually we're teaching completely differently now than we were previously. And for me, a lot of that centers on your learning management system, because it brings everything together, and the ability of that to bring together collaborative writing, videoed reflections, bringing together various apps in one place, and allowing students to submit assignments, have them assessed, have feedback delivered in ways which are kind of different to taking in an essay, marking it with red pen, handing it back to the student. I think we can see a slow drip of accumulative power of levels of affordances building up over time. And I can foresee a day when I come into work and it seems totally different to anything that I've previously experienced. If you've enjoyed the podcasts and interviews in this series, please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out, and I'll be back next year with more.